He is the New York Times bestselling author of Jew-ish and I Could Nosh, and now he's got a new book called Dinner Party Animal. I'm excited to find out more. Hey everyone, I'm Cappy and welcome to Beyond the Plate. This is a podcast where we sit down with the world's culinary elite to explore their journey into the food industry and the social impact they have made in their communities. If you're new to the pod, welcome. If you've listened before, we're glad you're back. If you're just tuning in, don't miss Heard, our short audio newsletter that comes out every other Monday, right here on Beyond the Plate. I'm sharing what's on my plate, from culinary insights to restaurants and recipes, all in just a few minutes. Please enjoy this episode as we go beyond the plate with the nice Jewish boy from New York, Jake Cohen. Actually, before we go beyond the plate, we want to give a shout out to our friends at Siete Foods, because later on in this episode, Jake and I talk about sandwiches and what better side to go with a sandwich than chips. I hope you're all familiar with Siete, but if not, allow me to tell you. Siete Foods is a Mexican-American food brand based in Austin, Texas. They are deeply rooted in family, more on that in a second, and they make a variety of delicious products using thoughtfully selected ingredients so more people can enjoy them. We're talking tortillas, tortilla chips, potato chips, puff snacks, cookies, taco shells, beans, seasonings, sauces, all the good stuff. Personally, I love their cassava tortillas. I've been a fan for well over 5 years. I just like the texture and the chew of them. But I have to say, when they drop new flavors like sour crema and onion potato chips or habanero hot honey potato chips, I am just so in. I do want to share more of their story, but stay tuned. We'll dig a little deeper in an upcoming episode. But a little teaser, the Siete story starts with a third-generation Mexican-American family of 7, Siete, get it, brought together by love, resilience, and a shared commitment to health. And of course, we have to mention just how incredibly thoughtful and generous this company is to their community and beyond. They've done extraordinary work, including their Juntos Fund, which they established to further their mission of uplifting underserved communities through education, entrepreneurship, and wellness. Truly such a great company. To learn more about Siete Foods, go to sietefoods.com and follow them on social media at Siete Foods for recipe inspiration, grocery shopping inspiration, and just a really cool, thoughtful, intentional brand. Siete Foods, we thank you. Hi, Jake.
Hi.
Good to have you here.
Good to be here.
All right. So, Jake, a few episodes ago, we recorded with Leah Cohen.
Of course. No relation.
No relation, but we kicked off a fun speed round. So in the spirit of all of our Cohen guests getting a speed round at the beginning, let's do one for you too.
Perfect.
You are well known for your chicken soup, which I would love to try. Okay, that's besides the point. You're well known for your chicken soup, so here goes. Number one person you couldn't believe you got to cook chicken soup for.
Yeah, I would say probably I do Passover every year with my family, and typically we combine with other friends' families and do like a big one. And so I think it was like 2 years ago, very close with Benny Blanco. And so him and Selena both had my matzo ball soup.
Love it. One person you'd like to cook chicken soup for.
Fran Drescher. 100%. And so I'm going to keep saying this on the press junket. I've been saying it every time.
Who's the biggest fan of your chicken soup?
Ooh, my mother.
Share one cooking tip that makes a great chicken soup.
Lots of dill. I really think lots of dill is like truly the secret. You could have a beautiful broth, but like dill is what takes it over.
Well, my next question was what makes your chicken soup so special, which maybe could be that.
It's everything. It's funny. I do many different types of chicken soup. I don't think there's one way to do it. I would say for my first book, I do a roasted chicken soup where you roast a bunch of chicken legs and veggies on a sheet pan before you make your broth. And that just helps really add some extra sweetness. And also it's the culinary school trick of you don't want to necessarily have like the scum of the coagulation. So by searing it, you kind of like cauterize the bones. That being said, I've done it with whole chicken. I've done it with chicken parts. I've done it where you roast it first. I've done it where you don't. You treat it with care. You season it well. You add lots of dill. You're going to have a good time.
All right. So now that we've got that out of the way, how's the book? How's life? How was Benny and Selena's wedding? How are all the things?
The wildest part, I actually don't think I've like talked about this publicly, but it was really intense because I knew ahead and I actually had planned. A lot of people were like, why are you starting your tour in LA like before launch date? Because it was Sunday. And it was because I knew I was going to their wedding and I was going to be on that side of the country. And so literally we had this crazy wedding weekend where it was a magical weekend of partying, and then literally went from the goodbye brunch on Sunday straight to like a 500 person book signing in LA. And luckily it was one like I like planned it out truly perfectly. It was moderated by my friend, my roommates, Alex Edelman and Benj Pasek, as well as our friend Genji Cohen, the prolific TV creator and writer. And we were all there at the wedding. And so we went straight from the brunch all together in a caravan to the signing, got it done, made it perfect timing. It was pretty magical.
Love it. Oh, you did all the festivities. You did the challah for the wedding, yeah?
For the rehearsal dinner, yeah. It was a Shabbat. It was on Friday. So yeah, and then I like led the motzi.
Was it all chef like food for the wedding or for the events? Was it?
Yes. I mean, it was very much, not all, but like it was all very much driven by the food and people that they love and that are close in their life. Yeah.
Yeah. So cool. Okay. Let's rewind a little bit. What was life like for little Jake Cohen growing up in Queens?
Very much like The Nanny, and just like crazy family. Both my parents were like working. So it's not like we had these like crazy, it wasn't like a trad wife situation. It was a lot of like tabashnik frozen soups and TV dinners.
Oh my God. I haven't heard that brand. It's so long.
Other than like the holidays, I would say like the Jewish holidays, Thanksgiving were the moments in which everyone stopped everything and cooked these feasts that were all about abundance and all about really just like kind of like leaning into that aspect of hospitality as this connector for family and people you love. And that's really where I became so obsessed with cooking.
Were you young when you became obsessed with it?
Yeah, for sure. But I would say it wasn't really until I was like a teenager that it really just like became an obsession.
Yeah. Who was cooking at home mostly? Or was it just like frozen soups and stuff?
It was like, yeah, my mom would make some things. She would cook. Everyone, like, it was like a hodgepodge of things. My mom definitely cooked, but it wasn't like that was the thing that just like kicked me off. My grandmother was an excellent cook. My aunt is a great, I mean, they all are still great cooks. Yeah.
Was there a specific moment when you realized it could be a real thing, or you took it more seriously, or was it just a culmination of all these festivities?
No, there was. I would say I was in high school. I was obsessed with Food Network. I was like, there were like 3 women, like the triumvirate that I would say changed my life were like Rachel Ray, obviously, our girl, and Ina Garten and Giada De Laurentiis. And the 3 of them, I do kind of think I am this like weird mashup of the 3 of them in a way that's like kind of freaky. I really, no shade, but like,
I like it.
Not no. And from there, it just like kind of went in this really magical setup of I would start hosting these little dinner parties for my friends in high school. And they were not like good by any means, but I got obsessed with the idea of doing it and kind of went from there. And then I was like, I think I should just go to culinary school. So it was the only college I applied to was the Culinary Institute of America, and just knew that this was going to be like, this was always the plan. Like where I'm at right now, like this was always the plan, and I just kind of knew I would get there one way or another and manifested it.
How did you find out about CIA? I mean, you grew up in New York, so different than someone outside of New York, but how did you find out about CIA or know that was a thing?
Google. You just Google culinary school and you started to see like, it's so funny. I was in this high school research class because I was like a nerdy high-end student that was like doing like biomed research on the summers. And I had this one class and I would spend the entire class some days just researching culinary schools and debating. It's like, okay, do I move to Paris and go to Le Cordon Bleu? Do I go to the Culinary Institute? Do I go to all these things? And funny enough, my dad was a videographer, and he worked most of his career in movies and music videos. And at this point, he was kind of getting closer to, I don't know, not retired. He's retired now, but before he kind of just went on to like TV shows and just had a real like long thing, he would do these shoots for like satellite media tours back when they were really a thing. And he would work with all of these chefs and Food Network stars, and he would actually start talking to them about me and ask for advice. And that became this motif that kept coming up. He would always have them sign one of their cookbooks for me, and it came up multiple times of people being like, you got to go to CIA. It's the best best culinary school in the country. It's where you're going to get the best education, have the most doors open for you. And so that's what I decided to do. And the funniest part was it's rolling admission. And so this was like the beginning of my senior year of high school. I got accepted months before everyone else knew where they were going for college. I never had to do the Common App or any of like kind of the things that everyone did. And I just made that transition into like, all right, I'm cooking now.
That's crazy. So were these early dinner parties that you hosted in high school? I want you to like take us into one. Was there music? Who was coming to them? Like, what were you cooking?
No music. A bunch of teenagers.
Like, I'm curious if, like when songwriters talk about the first song they wrote, they're almost like embarrassed by it, or they're like, you could probably find it on YouTube. But
I'm not embarrassed by it, but it wasn't a good dinner party. I remember this one, and I made Ina's ratatouille and her Parmesan polenta, and then I made this honey chocolate ganache tart from Giada, and it was like the ratatouille was using all expired dried herbs, and the Parmesan polenta was gloopy at best. The tart was very good because it's like literally crushed up chocolate graham crackers and a 3-ingredient ganache, but still, for all these 15-year-olds, all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, you made this? We're sitting at this table acting like grown-ups and having this like dinner party. It was a new experience that made it super special. And both my parents worked, so they weren't like there. It's actually quite funny because they were not there at all. It was just me with the teenagers. And then when we fast forward to when I really got into dinner parties as an adult, it was in my 20s, and I lived in a studio apartment in Manhattan at the time, and I didn't have a dinner table. And so I started my mom was the first one. I lived in Long Island City in Queens for many years. And my mom was actually the first one to move to that neighborhood right as it was really kind of building up. And then my sister followed her, and then I followed her. But she had a table that fit 12. And so I started hosting these Shabbats and dinner parties at her apartment. And the only rule was that she got a seat at the table. And so it'd be a bunch of 20-somethings and my mother. And also like everyone. I used to just invite all of my like idols in the food world. So I'll never forget, like I had everyone from like David Leibowitz to Smitten Kitchen to Deb Perlman to just anyone that I knew that I wanted to connect with more. I was like, why don't you come for Shabbat? So I could see if we really vibe, because I'm not very into the parasocial relationship. I think a lot of people are, and it's a sad quality. A lot of people will talk about their friends in the food world and be like, oh yes, oh my God, I'm friends with them. I'm like, have you met them? And oftentimes the answer is no. It's like, just because you comment on each other's Instagram posts does not make you friends. I'm very protective of that word. I think words have a lot of power, and people throw that around too lightly. It's literally how I became friends with Benny. Benny slid into my DMs in 2020 because he just loves food people. And then I was like, okay, cool. I'm coming to LA. Do you want to do Shabbat? And he was like, yeah. And then we cooked Shabbat, and that's what kicked off our entire friendship. And we just like went from there.
That's so cool. I love that.
And so that I'm very big on that. And you get to know, like they say, like sometimes don't meet your heroes. There are plenty of people that have come through my home that I've had for meals that I respect the hell out of them as for their work, who they are, and we just don't vibe in that way. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think we start to see these little, like in any industry, these like Avenger groups of people that are friends with others, and you get to see how they align in that way. And I definitely have a few people in our industry that I'm super close with, that I would consider family, that have shown up for me in ways that have gotten to know and spend time with my family. And then there are people that are political alliances, where I also don't really speak ill of people publicly. I don't think it's such a tacky quality of the world and our industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So what did you think at CIA? First, did you enjoy that experience? And second, what did you think your trajectory was going to be when you were there?
I loved it. I loved it so much. I was like so all about, I was great at school, and I love a challenge, and I will love to try to excel. And so I did extremely well. I put my head down. I was like, when it's time for an externship, I was like, great, I will only be going to a 3 Michelin star restaurant because I want the best experience in terms of learning a sense of urgency and building up a skill set.
Where'd you go? Where'd you extern?
I was at Danielle. Hotel back when it had 3 stars. And then for me, I actually always knew I wanted this. This was always the plan. I knew it wasn't going to be something I was just going to jump into. So I left and went into restaurants because I thought it would be, again, a really important part of my learning curve. So, and then post-graduate, like my last year, it was super light because, again, graded high school, had all these AP credits. CIA took all of them. And so I only had class like a couple of days a week for my last semester. And I started working part-time at ABC Kitchen. And then when I graduated, I literally graduated on Friday and started full-time on the line Monday. And that was that. And so for me, when I think of what I wanted to do, it was this. And I actually took this like food writing seminar, this food writing class in my bachelor's program that I loved. And it was a challenge because it was like, again, new for me. And I just became so obsessed with it. And then eventually when I made the transition from ABC to Saveur magazine, first starting as an intern and then just like working my way up onto the masthead, you never forget these things. I remember my first byline. It was this little 150 word thing about cake pans and about buttering and flouring cake pans. It was so funny. And then like looking back, I remember I cold called Rose Levy Berenbaum, who I got her number from like one of our editors, just to ask her for a quote for this little tiny piece I did. And obviously she is such an icon. She was one of the first cookbooks I ever owned was Rose's Heavenly Cakes. It is a tome. It is something that I think every home baker should own. And she has since become a dear friend and mentor. It comes up all the time in this world where I'm like still so gagged by who I get to hang out with and cook for and have in my life. And the core part is for a lot of these people, not Rose, because I was like a huge fan of hers first. A lot of these people, I actually get to know them first as people and then get really exposed to their art. And I find great inspiration from being surrounded by artists, mainly in other mediums than cooking, and to get to become a real fan of someone, which it's happened a few times now. Literally tonight, my friend pretty much sold out Carnegie Hall, and I became friends with her mainly because it's Shoshana Bean, like a wildly talented Grammy Award winning Broadway star. And we became kind of connected because her mother was a fan of mine. And we had a bunch of mutual friends. So I started inviting her to Shabbat. And then I'll never forget the first time I saw her perform. My breath was taken away and I was so mesmerized by it. And I think to be surrounded by people that are so focused on mastering their craft, even if it's something that I'm not so invested in musical theater, but to see someone at the top of their game, it makes me feel inspired, makes me want to be at the top of my game, and to be able to share my craft with her in the same way that she shares hers with me, I think it's a really important aspect of the community building that's so important to myself and so integral to this new book. This new book really is like an expression of that.
Oh man, I haven't even like super dove into it, but I cannot wait because everything you're saying is so speaking to me. First of all, I love how Shabbat is this like gateway in a sense of it just means so much in so many different ways to your life, your relationships and all that, which is really, really neat. And how you're talking about Shoshana and even people like Benny. So Benny and I have a mutual friend who has a songwriting podcast. He's written with Benny. His name's Ross Golan. He has a podcast called And the Writer Is. And Ross and I grew up together and we always talk about this because he's so deep in the songwriting world, talking to songwriters, and I'm so deep in the food world, talking to chefs and food personalities. And we talk about these similarities and differences. And I get inspired by chefs and cooks, don't get me wrong, but I get almost more inspired, to your point, at someone at the top of their game in a different field that I don't know about. It's so inspiring to see like their process and what inspires them and things like that. So
a lot of that actually has gone down because of Benny, where I've become friends with a lot of these like music producers and songwriters and artists. And I'll never forget, I'll just like go and I'll just be like, you should do a collab with this person or this, that, and the other way. And I've caused some drama. I won't go into it, but it was like one thing that ended up turning into like a public Twitter feud with a slightly problematic artist. But at the end of the day, I love it because I geek out on music, not in like what I like. And I find that so fascinating for me as someone who's like not in the game. So I have no skin in the game. I have nothing to gain from this. I'm not looking to become a pop star yet. but not say, if I want to be a pop star, I'm gonna be a pop star. But one, it's funny, Benny was like, once it's like, well, we could make you a DJ. We could make you a pretty successful DJ. And I was like, no. But then it's like, as I talked around, there is nothing for a gay man. There is no sadder thing than when you leave a successful career to become a DJ, or you add DJ to a successful career to another thing. It's a cry for help. I had so many people that just said, why don't you just bleach your hair first and see if that satisfies it?
Right. That's funny. Okay. So a slight step back to your time at ABC Kitchen and cooking in restaurants. Did you learn things in kitchens like Danielle and ABC Kitchen that you use in your work today?
Yeah, I would say it's Danielle. It was a sense of urgency. It was the ergonomics of how to set things up and how to build components. Everything was so involved. And so you saw what went into building each component of a dish. And that meant like making the tuiles for a tart that would then be filled with there was like a salmon tartare that was built into homemade cucumber cups that make it into this book. It was Vodafone curry tartlets. It was all these things for canapes to the components of fine dishes that you saw such attention to detail in a way that was magical. Not necessarily instrumental to how I cook now in terms of style, but in terms of technique, it's invaluable. And then with ABC under Dan Kluger, I think Dan Kluger, who now has Loring Place and Greywind here in Manhattan, he is one of the most brilliant chefs. Personally, I think he's probably one of my biggest inspirations in terms of the way that I cook and the way I think about flavor and building a dish. It's all about this tug of war between seasonality, freshness, acid, and heat with deep American nostalgia. And I think it is something that doesn't seem like it should be happening at the same time. And yet he's proven that there is such magic to that. Yeah. So I found it incredibly. Like what I saw happening at ABC was just the way I want to eat, the way I want to cook. And so it was really a great experience. And then moving into test kitchens and starting at Saveur, where all of a sudden I'm testing recipes, adapting recipes from chefs, learning how to write a recipe, learning how to edit a recipe, in addition to being exposed to cuisines from around the world that I'd never heard of, ingredients that I had no idea where to find. In addition to the fact that it was my real beginning into learning about baking, and I have such a sweet tooth and I love baking so much. So to be able to have the opportunity to dive into that with a formal training in culinary but not baking was great. Because a lot of people come up to me and they're like, so are you a chef? Are you a baker? And stuff. And it's like, I don't like to be pigeonholed in anything. Like, who the fuck knows what I am? I don't even know if I'm a chef anymore. It's like, for all you know, I'm going to end up being a cult leader.
Is there a moment you realized when you were done with restaurant world and wanted to make your way to Saveur or test kitchens, things like that?
Yeah, I'm just big on introspection. I'm big on planning. And the more I started to do visualization practices of owning a restaurant or running a restaurant and recognizing it's not actually what I want.
You considered that?
Yeah, I think you visualize it. But I was like, that's not what I want. And if I'm being true to myself, the whole reason I got into this was to get into media, was to be the next Food Network star, was to be all these things. It's like, okay, this is a path that has served me for education to get me on a skill set that will help me get to where I want to be. And then I really recognize when it's time to actually now get into a new field that will give me a parallel skill set in media literacy that I will need to do what I want to do in this field.
I still think it's really fascinating that you hosted dinner parties as a teen for fun and because you loved it, went to CIA, which is one of the best culinary schools in the world, knew you wanted to kind of end up where you are in some form or capacity, yet went from CIA to to Michelin rated chefs and restaurants. Did you kind of want to go to the top or learn from the best, or?
That's it. That was actually it. That was actually kind of, it's so funny. It's something that I have to thank my father for. I'll never forget, because he told me he'd done a satellite media tour with John Besh from New Orleans. I'd already gotten into CIA and I was going, and he asked him for what advice do you have for my son who's going to CIA. And his advice was, go to the toughest externship you can find. Go to the best restaurant that will give you the toughest experience to learn that. And again, who knows in today's world how advice like that would be received, or, people aren't necessarily looking for that experience like the bear where you're abused in this way. And I'm not saying I can't speak to what the current experience is in 3 Michelin star restaurants because I'm not there. Hopefully it's different. But I also look back and I'm like, the obstacle is the way. Like all of the hardships of going through that made me into the cook I am right now. And I'm very grateful for all of those. So I don't really have any regrets. I don't have any regrets in life.
Good. So you've built this brand that really balances your food knowledge, your personality. Have you been asked? I have to imagine you've been asked to do some of these cooking competitions or shows. Yes? No?
Yeah. I will not do a competition as a contestant.
I was curious how you would decide, like how you decide what feels true to you versus on paper.
I think the issue is that I was very blessed to build up a name and a career within the food media landscape very early on. Like I left Saveur, I was hired as the food editor of Tasting Table, which at the time was like one of the big food publications at 22. And so I thought I started at 23. So I was like a 23-year-old food editor running the entire section. I must have been 25 when I was the restaurant critic for Time Out New York. Like it was, part of me looks back and I'm like, what the fuck were these people thinking? But I also know what I was selling and people were buying it, still are.
Sure.
And it was one of those things where I think about what it meant for the brand to then build up this name as an expert, to build up this name as a leading voice in food, whether you like it or not, and then to take on the role as a competitor and what that could mean for me in terms of reputation. And so for me, I was very keen on not going into that. I was always down to like, you need a judge, you need a host. God bless. There's still a world. It's like, I love the way everything's going on. If tomorrow Top Chef has an opening, I'm going to go judge or host. And guess what? Like people will love it because that's where, it's where everything's moving. And it's not saying that anyone is doing a bad job, but it's just something where it's like, I know personality and I know that I'm just like adding this unique spin. And personally, I don't digest that content. I'm not watching cooking competition. And so for me to get involved in that sphere, which then becomes this whole kind of like circuit of, you see all these Food Network personalities that came from doing the circuit of competition shows. I think that's amazing. But for me, that means that I would be putting myself into a situation where the majority of work I'm doing is actually not in line with what brings me joy. And that's the most important thing for me. Like I'm not looking for more fame.
How do you figure that out?
You do, and then you respond. Like,
do you just know or do you base it on something?
You just know. Everyone knows. Your nervous system is a constant connection to your subconscious of what actually brings you joy, what you're doing. There is this idea that I'm not broken for a desire from a young age to be in the public sphere and to have this dream of cooking on television. There are many levels to it, many of which I've worked through. And I do think that I always wanted to be famous. And now I'm in a place where I think I've reached a level of recognition that I really love. I'm not looking to be more famous because I have a great balance of life and anonymity and a separation between like who's coming to my book signings and showing up for me and recognizing me. I voted early in the election yesterday, and it's like, oh, the woman in front of me online is like freaking out. Again, I'm on the Upper West Side, so these are my people. But that being said, like this audience that professionally loves my cooking, is buying my books, is watching my show, they're not the people I'm seeing at the club. And so I really like this divide. I also just like, all I want is more money. Like I just want to like be able to do what I do and have it sustain a lifestyle. And it's not like a crazy elaborate lifestyle. It's just like, I want to not worry about ordering chicken fingers at any time of the night. I want to take the Uber instead of the air train when I'm feeling really exhausted and have 3 pieces of luggage. It's like all of these little things. I'm not looking for wild luxury. I'm looking for small pleasantries.
Hey everyone, there's more of our conversation with Jake Cohen in just a couple minutes. We're excited to share that our friends at Ford's Gin are back this season, and they're once again mixing up something special. Throughout the season, they're creating custom cocktails inspired by the guest you're hearing from right now. We're back for another round. Get it? With Anna Maines, Trade Advocacy Manager for Ford's Gin, based in Dallas, Texas. She created a drink inspired by Jake's new book, Dinner Party Animal. Anna, I am super excited for this one. Tell us what you came up with this week.
I'm super excited about this one as well. This one's called the Chosen Martini, the ultimate dinner party animal trick. It lives in your freezer. It's always perfectly cold, clean, just a little briny. It's a martini with a deli twist, like matzo ball soup meets Fifth Avenue cocktail hour. You're going to pour it straight from the freezer, from the bottle, no shaker, no fuss, just crystal clear chill and a wink of deli magic. Now, before we do the ingredients, just a reminder, this recipe is a batch made to fill up a 750 milliliter bottle and is loosely based on a 3-to-1 martini build. The ingredients are 15 parts Ford's gin, 5 parts Dill and Dry Vermouth, 3 parts filtered pickle brine, 2 parts filtered water. This pre-dilution will help to make sure that you have the perfect dilution every time you serve. Now, to make this, you're going to start by setting aside 10 ounces of Ford's gin. You can save it later to enjoy, or if you have a few friends over, I would tell one of them to get on making up a batch of Negronis for you guys with it while you perform your party trick. You're then going to take that 5 parts of vermouth and add it to the 15 parts of Ford's gin that have been left in that bottle. You're going to then add the pickle brine and the water, put the cap back on, shake it gently, stick it in the freezer to get a nice chill on it. Then by the next day, it will be ready to serve for your guest. All you'll have to do is pull it from the freezer, take the cap off, pour straight into a coupe or nora, garnish with a dill, cornichon, cocktail onion, and a skewered caperberry. Bubby approved.
Thank you, Anna. I know what I'm making for my next dinner party. To get the recipe for this cocktail, check out the episode notes in your podcast player. To learn more about Ford's Gin, go to fordsgin.com and follow them on social media at Ford's Gin. Please drink responsibly. Ford's London Dry Gin, 45% ABV, Brown-Forman, Louisville, Kentucky. Ford's Gin is a registered trademark. Ford's Gin, the cocktail gin. When you work on a social media post or a recipe, do you have a pretty good idea when it will be a hit?
No, not really. You know when it's going to be a hit when it's based on something that has proven to do well. Like there are different categories of things that I know do well. That's all been trial and error of just making things that I'm doing that I'm interested in and going from there. And then I will typically ride away for a hot second. Then I move on because I don't want to be pigeonholed and I don't really care. I have a very interesting relationship with social media. I'm not like the second I win Powerball, it's all getting deleted. It's gone. But until then, love. Yeah, I don't know. I've gotten so into the IRL thing. Like the joy in my life is not in. And again, this is a huge issue, I say, within our industry, within a lot of my contemporaries, is this idea of success is based on validation from strangers. And it's like, ugh. It happened to me at what was one of the questions on my book tour. And someone was talking about that, like how hard it must be, or what is it like to have public scrutiny. And I said, you have to, and I just literally told her, I was like, you have to remember, you're all strangers. Your opinion means nothing to me. I have worked very hard to build up like the idea of like, I want to be loved and respected by the people I know, by my friends and family. Everything else, I don't really care. However, that doesn't mean that I don't have a deep obsession with my art. And I want to make sure that at its core, the recipes of my books are inventive, that they work, that they're delicious, that I can convey and inspire confidence and inspiration in the kitchen, and that I infuse a voice that people feel like they know me. They don't, but I want them to think they do. So I can put all of that energy into my art, and yet at the same time, art is for the artist. And so I know my books are amazing. I've written 3 books now. I'm pretty good at it. I'm not confident in everything in my life. I'm not confident even in when it comes to my cooking. What I do know is that I know how to throw my all into a project to make sure that this collection of recipes is amazing. That I'm confident in. I'm not saying that I'm going to always cook a delicious meal or that I'm not going to fuck something up, but I know by the time it hits the printer, I've worked on each recipe enough to make sure that it's going to help make your life better and you a better cook. And that is a big difference. And so for me, like social is social. It's these little tiny little bites. It's like the, little hits of dopamine. It's a bump of drugs. And a book to me is a tasting menu.
You said your goal is to help people host without losing their minds. What does successful hosting look like?
You leave and you're like, oh, I had so much fun tonight. That's it. Period. It's not, can you believe who showed up for me? It's not, can you believe how delicious that was? Those are all parts of it, but it's about it as a whole. I had such a great night. Everything is about having a great night. All I want in life are more great nights. We live in a world that's so full of craziness, and I just want to add joy. And I think that's something that's like, okay, that's my job. That's my role. And I also realize how, again, it's important, but in the grand scheme, it's like, I also don't take anything I do that seriously because of the fact that I'm just baking cakes. I'm just slinging chickens. I'm not creating renewable energy. I'm not curing disease. And so everything has to be taken with a grain of salt. And a lot of people that aren't in on the joke. And there's nothing I think funnier than like a cookbook author who takes himself so seriously. And there are two that come to mind right now. I respect the hell out of them. Again, another thing, the talent, amazing. Do we get along when we're in the same room? For me, like, you gotta just be a little silly. Like, we're not in on the joke. And I think when someone's not in on the joke, there's nothing worse.
Well, it's funny. Literally, my next bullet that I had here on my notes is about people taking themselves too seriously. And I said people use that phrase, don't take yourself too seriously. Yeah, I feel like you embody that mantra so much. How do you keep things fun and light while still taking what you do seriously?
For me, I think it comes to one of my favorite words in my life, which is discipline. It's respecting a discipline, and yet it's this push and pull between discipline and grace. And so for me, the discipline is my attention to detail, my dedication to cooking, my dedication to creating books and art that is adding to the conversation within the food world. And the grace is to remind myself that nothing really matters. We're all going to die. Have fun. Like, have moments of hedonism. Have moments of stoicism. Have moments of true restraint when it comes to cooking, when it comes to indulgence, when it comes to... There is no, like, monoculture around food. You can't just live one thing. It's why I hate all those. I hate diet books. Don't get me wrong. I'm always on a diet. Constantly. And by that, I mean, I always find like moments and times for deep moderation, and then also giving myself permission to indulge when I want. And that means, like, I don't know. Yeah, I've had some wild nights, and I feel that it's the same reason why it's like, I know how to have a nice, lovely, chill evening in on a Saturday, and I know how to be out until 1 p.m. the next day. There's a time and a place for both. Living all in one doesn't make you better, doesn't make you more evolved. Flexibility is the key to, I think, happiness in this world. And it's the same thing with throwing a dinner party. You have your idea of what you're going to do. You're putting in intention, but you're also going to be like reasonable to pivot when you got to. And you got to just like really kind of lean into like, all right, and things might go awry and you're going to make the most out of them and everything's going to be okay because it's about intention. And so if you come at this from this perspective of, I'm going to have a good night, I'm going to cook and nourish those I love, and that's the priority. Everything turning out exactly how I want to, that's just an exercise of control. And you got to release some control. I'm big on, and it's so funny because like obviously I'm so rooted as this like famous Jew cook. And the idea of Judaism plays such a strong role in me. And separate from the rituals of Judaism and so much of Jewish culture is the real underlying quality that's not unique to Judaism, but really is unique to humanity, which is faith. You have to have faith that everything is going to work out exactly how it's supposed to, and then put in the work. That doesn't mean you're like, okay, I'm just going to pop the chicken in, and you know what? Whenever it comes out, I have faith that it's going to be cooked. No, you have faith that if you put in the energy to host a dinner, to cook the meals, to follow the recipes, to make everything great, it's all going to work out. And when things go awry, you'll be able to pivot, and it's not going to affect the underlying intention, which is to give you and your friends a wonderful night.
You and your recipes have been featured everywhere. Drew Barrymore Show, Good Morning America, Food Network, on and on and on. So your FYI show, Jake Makes It Easy, feels like a nice extension of your brand to me. How is the process for you doing that compared to making social media content?
Oh my God, it's so different. So yeah, for me, it's just narrative storytelling. And I think in the same way that I do that on social where I'll make someone want to make a recipe, that's all fun, but you don't have the time to really convey like the story or convey the tips or convey this. Like you can, but then you're just like, you're just making a TV show, which is totally fine. But really, when we think about like these platforms, they're looking for more bite-sized versions. And I just really think that there's something so magical in having the space and the time to do something like that, and also have the team to have it produced in a way that is of the caliber that I would want. And so, yeah, this is my first stand and stir cooking show on FYI, A&E, and then streaming on Hulu. And I think it'll be the first of many. Hopefully, it's funny. I called Molly Ye, the Food Network star, right before I filmed my first season for Task for Advice. And she goes, we did this exercise where she was like, name your favorite like television food personalities. And we went through it. She goes, what was their first show called? And I didn't actually know for a lot of these people what their actual first shows were called, because they were just one step on a very long, successful career. And so her whole thing was like, this show might be your hit, or it might just be your first stepping stone to what's next. And the only way you will get there is by just having fun with it. And so like I went through it, and it's like, I just had fun with it. I said ridiculous things. Oh my God, the second season, I made this one dish, and it was literally a dish that I made for this like lover I picked up in Berghain in Berlin. And I'm like, I recount like a PG-13 version of this story of going to the world's wildest club and making a tofu dish as a result. And that's so me, and that's so like anti Food Network, anti the standard of what you would typically imagine to hear from a food television personality. And to me, that's like the only way I can do it is by being authentically myself, which is both a very nice Jewish boy and a bit crazy.
I love that you asked Molly, because what a good person to ask. Like her path and trajectory and how authentic she is on TV and across all her platforms. Like, she's one of my favorites. All right. We've sprinkled in nuggets of Dinner Party Animal throughout this episode, but I want you to share a little more about your latest book, Dinner Party Animal, Recipes to Make Every Day a Celebration. Beyond the title, what do you hope people get out of the book?
Real use. So it's 16 menus broken down with your recipes, your grocery lists, your timelines, pep talks, everything you need to do from start to finish. And it's everyday dinners, celebration dinners, Thanksgiving and Passover dinners, like everything you could need. So really what I want to see, and what I have been seeing, is people actually like recognizing, oh, I can do this. I'm going to do this. And whether that means that they're splitting up the recipes and that it's a group of friends that are knocking at a menu, or someone's knocking at the whole menu themselves, I want people to find more confidence that they can throw a dinner party and have it be just like amazing and delicious.
Yeah, so good. You expressed your love of the book writing project, I guess I'll phrase it as. What do you love most about that process?
Oh, that's I would say it's coming up with a thesis statement, which is all my books have a thesis statement. Jewish it's like, I love Shabbat. I love the holidays. I want to show people that Jewish ritual can be met with modern Jewish cooking in a way that makes us excited about both Judaism and hosting. My second book was around the concept of Jewish food is actually only relegated to the holidays. When we look on the public sphere and we look at the majority of the community, how do we incorporate Jewish cooking into our everyday routine? And that's why Ganache it's such a great book. And then this book is about the fact that people go on a journey to become a better cook with a cookbook. And yet we are so craving community and don't actually have the tools to graduate from making one recipe well to making a menu well. How can I bridge that gap with a book? And I love that. And then I love telling that story through the photography and making sure that the art program for my books are like, that's the one thing you could say. I mean, I don't know, say whatever shit you want to say about me. You can't talk shit about my recipes, and you can't talk shit about the photos in my books, because they are just fucking on point. And it ain't cheap. And I'm there every fucking day cooking every recipe, working with the best food stylist, the best photographer, the best prop stylist to make sure everything is gorgeous, stunning, and makes you want to make this dish immediately. I will say the thing I hate the most, and it seems counterintuitive because A, I'm good at it, and B, it's like, here I am. It's the rollout. It's the press. It's the idea of art through the lens of capitalism, where all of a sudden it's like the success of the book is based on how you hawk it. And that's really tough. tough because it puts a value system on it. And I think when I look at my books and I look at where I like which one, and then you compare it to like, all right, but how did they sell and what's the market looking for? They're not all like, it's not all like linear. It's very much something that's quite different. And it's something that I have really learned to understand from artists in different mediums, where you see like some of their favorite art, some of their favorite things, some of the things that they think is both technically the best and with the most soul are not their most commercially viable. And it's an interesting conversation. And to me, it's very similar to when you think in the restaurant world, how you have all of these chefs that have these crazy high-end restaurants, and then they have the fast casual concept. And the fast casual concept is where they make their money, and they're making a loss on the high-end restaurant. And yet, you got to do it all. And that's such an interesting thing for me. And I'm not going to say struggle with it, but it's still something that I'm navigating, still something that I'm exploring.
Man, the thought, the heart, the time that you put into your books, your process, I hope people, I know people will hear it, but I hope there's other industry professionals, which I know listen to this podcast, also pick up on that, because I feel like everybody has a different process. Like I know Rachel's obviously for the longest time, which is very different from many people's, and it's different from Giada's, which is different from Molly's, which is different from yours. And it's really smart and interesting how you go about yours. It's making me think more and more and more, and I like it. Anyhow, thanks for sharing all of that. Is there a dish or a tip that for you turns an ordinary dinner into a celebration?
Yeah, I'd say I really exercise this I have this winter chicken dinner menu, which is just like a beautiful roast chicken dinner with like all these really fun recipes, roasted broccoli and a buffalo beurre blanc, these smashed potatoes with a scallion horseradish dressing, a gorgeous tarte tatin made with cinnamon and apples. For me, it's the dish I make for my sister because she is so picky as an eater. And so it's all real simple dishes in terms of roasting, cooking, and then sauces, toppings that zhuzh it and make it like absolutely incredible and unlike something you've had before. And yet, if someone's picky, you can still have it separate for them. And once you do that, you realize like, I'm going to make everyone happy. And you don't think that you can, but you really can make everyone happy.
Okay, you live with Oscar and Tony winning composer and songwriter Benj Pasek and comedian and writer Alex Edelman.
Well, Oscar, Tony, Emmy, and Grammy, full EGOT, Benj Pasek.
All of the things. This, to me, feels like college living in a way, but for grown-ups. Does that feel like that? How did this happen?
Benj is the most talented and generous person I know. Alex had moved in. We'd both kind of gone through loss and trauma. Alex with a person in terms of a death, myself with a relationship. And Benj was like, you got to come move in. And it became a situation that is so magical. And I know it's a moment in time. It's something that I'm so grateful for and has been such a wonderful experience. A first for me. Since college, I've never really had like roommates like this. And it's been a fascinating situation. Yeah. My friend Modi, the comedian, refers it to as Benj's halfway house for lost boys.
What does your dinner table look like? Are they testers or critics or both?
Both. And again, we have the wildest people that just come by the apartment. You never know who's going to come by. And it's like the wildest is seeing like we each bring such a different crew of people to and it's wild. Yeah. Really, you never know. You'll be home and all of a sudden, Alex was in bed and sleeping and he literally like stumbles out half asleep and I'm in the living room with SZA and he's like, what's going on? And so you don't know. And sometimes I'll go to sleep. There was one time where I was like passed out here and they had like crazy people over. It's, I love it.
Okay, if I open your fridge right now, what would surprise me?
There's not a lot in there right now because I'm leaving for Berlin tomorrow. I don't think there's anything that'd be that surprising. Oh, actually, I need to make sure I hide this before because no one uses it accidentally. There's a lot of drugs. There are these weed drinks called Bimble that I'm obsessed with right now. So I have a lot of those. Always have to warn people because they think they're going in, they're just getting a seltzer. Nope, it'll get you high. In addition to then there's also some infused chocolates. Brad Leone gave me a bunch of can of butter he made. And so that's there. And you never know what's not weed in my fridge.
That's really funny. Any Tupperware container, can I eat this?
Exactly. But that's on you.
Okay. You've got a table of 6. Could be family members, chefs, musicians, anyone. Who are you inviting?
Me, Alex, Benj, Benny, my mother, Benny's mother.
Have your mother and Benny's mother met?
Yes. We spend holidays together. They love each other. They're very much the same person. It's a little weird.
Okay, he's from New York. He's from New York, right?
No, he's from Virginia.
More importantly, what are you serving?
Oh, interesting. I'll make a brisket. I think that's like most of those kinds of occasions. I'm making challah and I'm making a brisket, and then I'll figure out the rest.
All right, what's next? What's a North Star for Jake Cohen?
Excellent question. I actually think I know my next project. I think I've really always had an obsession with being a first mover in a space. And so I feel like I did that with Instagram. I did that with TikTok. And I don't think I'm rushing into my next book. I just finished a multi-book deal. So now that this is out and I'm done with that, I actually think I love this interview that Lauryn Hill did around like how much work went into her first album that was such a success. And she didn't rush into the next because you have to have such life experience in order to really fuel all this creativity. And so right now that I have this trio of books that I think are the most incredible addition to anyone's bookshelf, I'm going to dive into a new field, and that's all I'll leave it, is that I think I'm going to be the first big person in
DJ J. Cohen.
Yeah, I'm going to be, you'll see me, catch me in Berlin, spinning. I think it's always going to be food related. I think one thing that I've made very clear is, anyone who's listening to this understands, I know how to talk, I know how to fill space. When I do all of my press for my show or for my books, I'm with Drew, I'm on the Today Show, and they're all like obsessed with me because I can handle live. And really that all came about from practice, where I worked when I was the food editor at Tasting Table. I'll never forget the day Facebook Live became a thing. And that was our largest platform. Other than BuzzFeed, Tasting Table was the largest food publication on Facebook. And the CEO was like, great, we're going live every day. And I was like, amazing. And so I was live every day, either just myself or with family or with editors or with chefs or with celebrities cooking. And I learned how to fill time and be on camera. I love that, but I wasn't good at it at first. It was a skill I really had to learn. And I'm very good at it now. I'm very good at live television. I'm very good at being on camera. And so I think it's going to be incorporating food, but also really embodying this last book, which is food is just part of the equation for connection. And so maybe I'll start a cult. Who knows? Maybe I'll be the next Mel Robbins. I don't think I'll be pigeonholed to one thing. I am constantly going to reinvent myself. The key part with faith, in the same way of knowing that no matter what, you're going to have a good night. It's like, no matter what, I'm going to be successful. No matter what, I'm going to find success, fulfillment, and financial stability. And those are the three things that will come no matter what I'm doing. And I'm not afraid of failure. I've had plenty of failure. I've had plenty of success. And I think I know what my next thing is. And I'll be back on here to talk about it once I'm like wildly successful in that.
I love it. Do you have more book ideas?
Oh my God, of course.
Like plenty more book ideas, or do you?
I could knock out another 2 right now. Yeah. No. Again, like I said, this is what I'm good at. It's just, this is not necessarily a hindrance to it. But the market as a whole, when it comes to nonfiction, is softening. And that's not necessarily a great idea for me to be putting in the amount of time, energy, and money. The cookbook shoots are not cheap. Advances are not what you think they are. They are what you're supposed to be like literally supporting yourself on for the next few years as you write a book. And if the market's softening, to put my all into that is not necessarily the most financially responsible. That being said, it's always going to be part of my brand. I'm always going to be writing books. I know I will have more. I just now need to figure out what is my next little side hustle that brings in money. What's my next little fast casual thing so that I can continue to put out books at the caliber and quality that I want and still make sure that I'm not being irresponsible to myself.
Oh, I'm so intrigued. Okay, Jake, you know this. Our podcast celebrates social impact with all of our guests, and learning how they all do it is what inspires me and our team. And I'd love for you to share. You do an incredible amount of work using your voice, your time, and beyond. But I'd love for you to share some of the work you've done and do in the community.
So there are 2, and they really tie in a lot to this. I'm on the board of directors for One Table, which is like an incredible nonprofit that helps people in their 20s and 30s find and create a sustainable Shabbat practice through financial subsidies to help pay for your groceries, to resources to really make you find ownership in this ritual. That was so instrumental to me as someone who didn't necessarily grow up with that ritual and has now have it become such a core integral part of my life. And then equally important, I'm on the culinary board of City Harvest, New York's first and largest food rescue organization that truly is, I think, the most important thing when we think of community in the city. So often we think about philanthropy nationally or globally, and we often ignore our actual neighbors. And so to be active and spend time volunteering to pack food and go to food pantries and help support New Yorkers that are living on your block that are food insecure is, to me, the most important thing than before we focus on so many issues that need to be addressed around the world. Look in your backyard and really spend some time like focusing on and supporting your own local community.
Yeah, that's such great advice. Wow, those two great organizations, and they're both lucky to have you. Thanks for sharing about those. Sometimes I feel like I say this every episode, but I'm going to say it again because you really embody this. For anyone listening, I would say give what you can. You don't have to have all the money in the world. You don't have to have all the time in the world. And you don't have to have the biggest social media following in the world. But you can use your voice. $1 goes a long way. $5 goes a long way. An hour a month goes a long way. And I encourage anyone to find the way to give back. Like Jake said, look in your own backyard. Find a way to give back that's meaningful to you. And so thanks for sharing about those couple organizations. All right, let's do a quick speed round and then we'll close it out.
Perfect.
Number 1, what did you have for dinner last night?
Oh, I went on a great date and we went to Noodle Pudding, which is this like cash only Italian restaurant in Brooklyn Heights. And so I had pacheri and meatballs with Sunday gravy and butternut squashed ravioli.
Name a smell in the kitchen you love.
Fresh baked challah. Like the smell of freshly baked bread is beyond.
Name a smell in the kitchen you hate.
Fryer anything. I'm not big on like setting up a frying station and having like the smell of like oil. No, thank you.
What pisses you off in the kitchen?
Ooh, it's so funny. Very few things. I think when you have, people typically get so stressed when you're like cooking or trying to finish a meal and everyone's like crammed in the kitchen. And I love that. I would say the opposite. I think when I'm alone in the kitchen, that's what pisses me off. When people are in my home and are not keeping me company in the kitchen.
What makes you happy in the kitchen?
Honestly, it's so wild. To me, the kitchen is it's the center of everything in my life. It's where I cook. It's where I connect. It's where I cry. It's where I laugh. I've had sex in my kitchen. I've done drugs in my kitchen. It is the center of my life.
This is the last speed round question. As we were doing this speed round, my brother texted me because I'm on multiple food text chains with him, and he half jokingly but not said, "Hey guys, it's National Sandwich Day. I hope you're having fun. What's your ultimate sandwich?" Since that just came in.
So it's very specific. And this came up on that date last night. We were talking about sandwiches. My favorite sandwich is a turkey club. And when I look back, my first job in a kitchen was at this sandwich shop on Long Island called Roast Sandwich Shop. And they made the best turkey club in the world. And it was like the bar that I keep for all turkey clubs, and most really fail to make it, with the exception of Hani's in the East Village, Miro and Shilpa Uskokovich's bakery. And it is my favorite place in the world to go. It's where I have dates. It's where I have meetings. Like literally, oftentimes I'll text him. It's so, again, I'm an open book, but their head chef is Daniel Alvarez, who was of Daily Provisions, the brilliant mind that created the maple cruller that has become so integral. And Miro, who is the pastry chef at Gramercy Tavern. Like, these are the pastry geniuses of our generation, all in this bakery, making my favorite things in the world. I'll text them. Oftentimes I'll go out party, like not all the time, but like when I do decide to go out and go to a rave or something, I'll text them about 8 a.m. I'll be like, "Hi, I'm coming to the club. I'm bringing a friend. Can you put a table aside for me?" And we'll show up, sunglasses on, in full rave attire, and just like go to town. In addition to the fact that like one time Benny and I, we brought 15 people and just crowded the bakery, and it was everyone. We brought like our mothers. It was Jessie Ware and her mother. It was BJ Novak. It was Benj and Alex. It was just such a random crew of people. And the thing that they do the best in this city is their turkey club. That turkey club, it is the best sandwich I've ever had in my life. It is, to me, like I could eat it every day. To me, it is the thing that brings me the most joy. Is when I think of a sandwich, I'm thinking of Hani's Turkey Club. And it's got this gorgeous pesto on it and so much turkey, and it's on homemade milk bread that they make in-house. It is that bitch.
That sounds so good. I'm 100% going there next time I'm in New York. What made the place in Long Island, Roast?
Roast. Yeah.
What made that turkey club so good?
Attention to detail. There was a whole thing about they're not using boar's head. They were brining and roasting all of the turkey breasts, slicing them. There was mashed avocado on it, pickled onions, a really good like mayo sauce, I remember, tomatoes. It was panini pressed. It was just so good. So good. Still is. If I'm like driving, it's like my favorite pit stop on my way to like Fire Island or the Hampton is like stopping at Roast for a sandwich.
Yeah, I could probably keep talking about this, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know if our listeners want to hear me ask you like 15 more questions about turkey clubs. So I'll stop for now, even though that's a good chance I make a turkey club for lunch today. Okay, closing it out. So we have an audio newsletter called Heard where I share a few things on my plate at the moment. Could be a restaurant, a product or ingredient, a recipe, something philanthropy related. I would love for you to share one thing on your plate that I can feature on an upcoming Heard episode.
Oh, I love that. Okay, I would say for me, I get a lot of books sent to me, a lot of cookbooks, and like I said earlier, I'm never going to shade anyone. I'm never going to publicly speak ill. A lot of them are fine. A lot of books are fine, but like very rarely do you see a book and you're like, oh my God, this book is amazing. And one of my best friends is Ben Simontov, and him and his wife Ziki wrote this incredible book called Eat Small Plates. And they are both some of my best friends and some of my biggest culinary inspirations. I think the way that they think about food and cooking, and it's such a beautiful mashup of Ziki's Ukrainian, Ben is Israeli, and you have such wild flavors and everything is so thoughtful, and it makes me want to be like better at my job. My favorite type of book or person is someone that I see and are like, oh, wow. It's not jealousy. It's fire that goes underneath me of being like, wow, it energizes me.
I love that. Find me more people like that. So good. Love it, man. Thank you. Where can people find you?
At Jake Cohen, wherever you get your vice on social media. Buy the books, Dinner Party Animal, wherever books are sold, as well as Jewish and I Could Nosh. And you could watch Jake Makes It Easy on A&E and streaming on Hulu.
Awesome. We will link to all of the things in the show notes. Thank you, Jake. This was amazing. I could definitely keep talking to you for quite a long time, but for purposes of this platform, we'll keep it here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Find all social media links for myself, Beyond the Plate, and our guests in the episode notes and on beyondtheplatepodcast.com. As always, a big thanks to the whole Beyond the Plate team. And if you have a moment, we'd be grateful for your support by rating, reviewing, and even hitting that subscribe button to the podcast. Don't forget to join us next Wednesday for an episode of Beyond the Drink, our companion podcast of Beyond the Plate, brought to you by our friends at Ford's Gin. Thank you for listening to Beyond the Plate. I'm Cappy, and remember, there are never too many cooks in the kitchen.